Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to cover the 20 essential amino acids that you'll have to know for the exam. It's important that you know the full name, the one-letter code, the three-letter code, and what group they belong into. So, nonpolar, polar, acidic, or basic. There's a bunch of different ways you can either practice memorizing this, again, just through repetition of writing them out yourself, coming up with funny mnemonics to be able to remember the names in the groups. Either way, practice makes perfect, and I highly encourage you to practice quizzing yourself and double checking that you got the 1 and 3 letter codes right. So the first group I'm going to start with is the nonpolar group here. It's this top row, and the letters are G, A, V, L, I, M, W, F, and P. For the most part, a lot of these amino acids, the one letter code is pretty easy because it's the first letter of the name. So you can kind of see that here. Typically, the reason why the letter wouldn't match the first name is because it's already taken by another amino acid. For example, you have phenylalanine and proline. They both start with a P, but only one of them can get the letter P. So to remember the polar group, my little mnemonic for this, or the nonpolar group, excuse me. So nonpolar, I think of it as there's two ways, either gavlum or galvum. It's simply just flipping the L and the V. Galvum sounds a little bit more like the boy's name Galvin, so you might be able to memorize that, or just Gavlum, kind of a weird little trick, but just remembering those 6 letters, and then went freaking psycho is the second half. So you have the first 6 amino acids in the Gavlum or the Galvum piece, and then the W, F, and P for your tryptophan, phenylalanine, and then proline. To remember that tryptophan is W, I remember it as Trip tried to win. When I was younger, I used to be a gymnastics coach, so there was a little boy who loved to win little games and such. So that's how I remember Trip tried to win. You can also remember it as like you tripped trying to win. Like you almost got to the finish line and then you tripped right at the end and lost. So tripped, try to win. That's how you can remember that it's TRY for tryptophan and not TRI. Because that also helps with the full name. So trip, try to win is where you get that W. And then the other one is phenylalanine. And remember that this one is the letter F. And I think of it as fentanyl F's you up. So if you take fentanyl, you're probably going to get pretty screwed up from it. But yeah, that's just my little tip on remembering phenylalanine as F. Okay, the next group we have is the polar group. And this one, I remember it as Stissy, so not Stacy with an A, but Stissy, so S-T-C-Y, takes NyQuil, N-Q, and sleeps like a polar bear. So again, Stissy, not Stacy, remove the A, like the girl's name, takes NyQuil. To sleep like a polar bear. And that helps you remember that it is the polar group. Here's 4 of the amino acids STCY, and then NyQuil for your remaining two, N and Q. For this one, the only letters that are different from the first, like the name of it, is your tyrosine, your asparagine, and your glutamine. For tyrosine, there's other T names, like threonine. So you have threonine and then tyrosine, both starting with a T. That threonine got the T, just because it's higher up in the alphabet. However, they will typically move down the line to figure out what the next unique letter is that they can possibly use for the one letter code. And in this instance, tyrosine is TY, so they stole the Y right here and used it for their one letter code. So just when you say it, you can hear the Y sound, tyrosine. So just remember it like that. And then for asparagine, I remember it as like asparagus. Sounds similar to asparagus, and I say asparagus is nasty. And that's how I remember that it is N. So asparagus is nasty. And that's how I also remember that it's ASN, asparagus nasty, for the three letter code as well. And then lastly, you have glutamine, which is the letter Q. And I think of it as if you eat too much Dairy Queen, then you'll get big glutes. Or if you sit on your butt and eat ice cream all day, that also is likely to happen. But yeah, that is how I remember the polar group. So again, Stissy takes NyQuil to sleep like a polar bear. And then these next two, for the electrically charged, you have acidic and you have basic. For acidic, you have the name acid in both of them. So you have aspartic acid and glutamic acid. And these letters specifically are D and E for the aspartic acids. This sounds a little bit childish because it is. However, I remember it for the acidic group is D's nuts, like a sixth grader. D's nuts are acidic. And then again, both have end with acidic. And then also a good way that I remembered which two is that they'll both end in IC. So you have aspartic and glutamic. Both ending in IC, just like the word acidic. So that's how you can kind of help yourself remember that it's not glutamine that's acidic, but glutamic acid, and not glutamine acid. So just remember the IC at the very end. And then your last group is your basic group. And then these letters are K, not L, K, R, and H. It's a bad looking R. But, K, R, and H, and then I remember this as Hong Kong's rice is basic. Again, you can, for basic, Hong Kong's rice is basic. For K, I know lysine is a little bit different. It's a little bit strange that you have a K instead of an L. I remember lysine as you want to kill lice, like the little bugs and stuff that go in people's hair. You want to kill lice, so lysine kind of sounds like the word lice. And then K starts, or kill starts with the letter K. And then arginine, I think of it kind of like a pirate, arginine. You hear the R. And then histidine, of course, starts with the letter, has the one letter code is what the name starts with. So that's pretty easy. But other than that, those are my different tips. Again, you have Glavum or Galvum went freaking psycho. Stissy, not Stacy. Stissy took NyQuil to sleep like a polar bear. Um, and then you have D's nuts are acidic. And again, remembering that the two names end with IC, aspartic and glutamic. And then Hong Kong's rice is basic. Remember that lysine that you want to kill lice. Arginine sounds like a pirate. Um, and then histidine is the regular one. But those are my tips and tricks for memorizing the 20 amino acids. If you have any questions, let me know. If you come up with better ways of remembering these things, also let me know and share them with other people. But this is the kind of way that I remembered it when I took the class, and how I best memorized it for the exam. So best of luck, and I hope this helped.